Can everybody try to come nearer for those of you who are in the room? So anyway, we shall start. Good afternoon, good day to everybody. Welcome to this book launch. This event is being jointly organized by the Ateneo University Press, the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, or AIS, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Philippines, or SDSN PH, and the SDSN PH SDG2 Zero Hunger Project, composed of the Ateneo de Manila University, the Ateneo de Davao University, and Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan. My name is Tina Liamson. I'm a faculty member, part-time faculty member at Ateneo School of Government and the Loyola Schools, and a member of the working group on the SDG2. So welcome everybody. And to give the opening remarks, may I ask Ms. Maria Karina A. Velasco, the director of the Ateneo University Press.
Good afternoon. Kyoto Center for Southeast Asian Studies, 2019. That's where and when I first met Heriberto Tafoya, Beto to friends, a young Mexican scholar who did detailed and sensitive fieldwork in Metro Manila slums for his study in a Japanese university. That by itself, I found very interesting and said a lot about his openness to new ideas, new cultures, new findings. He was newly married and they just had their first child. He was then adjusting to Japanese life and was happy that when we met, we could do beso-beso because he had not done it in a long while in Japan. So he spoke of his study, the dissertation he was recasting for book readers. His manuscript is a detailed investigation of corporate packaged food and the Metro Manila urban poor's increasing consumption of it. Substantial, rich with empirical data, and seriously engaged with relevant scholarly literature. It is ambitious in scope and offers information extremely interesting and important to a number of disciplines: economics, sociology, development studies, and the cross-disciplinary fields of food studies and consumption studies. What actually got me on top of all of that was his insight on how, as cultural activists, we fight for preservation of our heritage, both tangible and intangible, and how intangible has been defined to include our oral traditions, performing arts, social practices, rituals, festivities, and knowledge and skills to produce traditional crafts, but not our cooking, which, he says, we are losing as 4 million and growing informal settlers have become dependent on corporate packaged food. And he says, with conviction, that any household bereft of art, music, and literature has cooking not just as a life skill, but as the most fundamental creative work known to humans. As a Mexican raised in a poor neighborhood himself, he offers an interesting comparative perspective. We, of course, know how close our culture is to Mexico's more than to Spain's. His own experience, at many instances in the study, clearly has an impact on his analytical framework, methodological choices, and reflexive positioning of the researcher in the field. The good, dignified, and flourishing life is buen vivir to them and ginhawa to us. This book even traces the history of food packaging in general worldwide and in the Philippines from the late 19th century to World War II, from the post-World War years to the mid-1960s when Marcos came to power, and the Marcos era, and fourth, the contemporary era from the People Power Revolution in 1986 to the present. It shows how packaged food producers and importers employ the legendary distribution system of the sari-sari stores and their practices of tingi, utang or lista, and close social relations to their suki so successfully and at such a fast rate that now 55% of store profits come from sale of corporate packaged food, when in the 70s and 80s, it was hardly or less than 10%. Packaging life clearly continues, accelerated by the pandemic despite the community pantries, which made fresh food available. The consumption of industrialized food damages the vital spirit that animates our well-being, isolates us from nature that practically most of us don't care about anymore these days, and therefore is very well the root of the environmental degradation happening today. Also, we know at an even faster rate. His last section, Unpacking Life, proposes 3 interrelated lines of action from the grassroots as communities cannot rely on government, private institutions, and suffer only from the politics of daily life. One of them is to make the people know, again, the use of food, plants, and other natural products for healing. The other is to go back to cooking well, to eat well, live well, and die well. Beto will discuss this book in greater detail in a while, and we all who are here will certainly benefit from it immensely. On behalf of Ateneo de Manila University Press, congratulations, Beto, on this quite distinctive contribution to Philippine studies. I wish to quote you from the book, please indulge me, this insight that is the essence of this book and its author, and should guide how we ought to live our lives despite being in this neoliberal world. I quote, "I would like to mention that my frequent walks through bamboo paths taught me that each bamboo grows just enough for all of them to receive the sunlight equally. They stop growing at that point, and then only their branches move with the wind or stand firmly to cover the plants that share the same soil from sunbeams and heavy rain. It is true as well for rice and maize," close quotes. So on behalf of the Ateneo Press, I thank everybody that at the Ateneo School of Government, the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, and the other organizers of this forum making this conversation possible. Thank you also, Dr. Tafoya, for coming back to Metro Manila and revisiting the communities you interacted with in 2015 and 2016. I think it's always good to open a program with hearts full of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karina, for that exhaustive introduction on both Beto and the book, Packaged Food, Packaged Life. Now I'd like to turn over the floor to Dr. Philip Arnold P. Tuanyo, who is the Dean of the Ateneo School of Government and a member of the SDG2 Zero Hunger Project Working Group.
Dr. Heriberto Ruiz Tafoya, Doc Beto, author of the Packaged Food, Packaged Life book, which we are launching this afternoon. Ms. Karina Bolasco, Director of the Ateneo de Manila University Press. Ms. Ines Fernandez of the Arugaan Non-Government Organization, and Dr. Justin Bajon of the Theology Department, who's also a member of the SDG2 Working Group, who are the actors in today's forum. Members of the university faculty. I see here, of course, Dr. Tina Liamson, Professor Edgar Valenzuela, Dr. Emma Delicado, who has organized all of this for us. I see also Dr. 𝘾𝙤𝙧𝙥𝙤 of the Ateneo School of Government. Staff, students, guests from the academe, civil society sector, good afternoon. Welcome to the book launch of Packaged Food, Packaged Life, Corporate Food in Metro Manila Slums by Dr. Beto Tafoya. We are honored to have you all today, and we extend our heartfelt gratitude from us at the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Philippines, the Ateneo University Press, the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, and the SDSN PH SDG2 Zero Hunger Project. And we would like to thank you for coming to this significant event. We come here in the Faura Hall AVR of the Ateneo de Manila University to celebrate and explore the thought-provoking insights presented in this pioneering work by Dr. Tafoya, Doc Beto. Packaged Food, Packaged Life explores the consumption patterns and realities of marginalized communities in the global South, focusing on slum areas in Metro Manila. Through fieldwork and research, Doc Beto examines the historical circumstances contributing to the reliance on corporate packaged food. This book challenges the idea that individual choices alone drive consumption, emphasizing the structural constraints faced by those who rely on packaged food. As the book cover would say, this draws on the Latin American concept of buen vivir and the Philippine counterpart ginhawa. And the author, Doc Beto, offers a perspective rooted in his own personal experiences and cultural fusion. The book not only provides insights into the retail and consumption of processed food, but also urges policy and programmatic action. By understanding the complexities of a packaged life, we can address the challenges faced by marginalized communities and work toward sustainable and equitable solutions. The book serves as a valuable resource for policymakers, researchers, and individuals seeking to comprehend the impact of corporate packaged food on vulnerable populations, particularly in developing countries such as the Philippines. Today, as we reflect on the pages of this thought-provoking work, it is crucial to recognize the broader context of food security in the Philippines and in the developing world in general. The prevalence of undernutrition, further exacerbated by the economic lockdowns during the COVID-19 pandemic, demands our attention and collective action. Inflationary prices of basic food items have worsened the plight of hungry Filipinos, while the high rate of child stunting paints a stark picture of the challenges that we actually face. It is in the context that we in the SDG2 Zero Hunger Project, alongside with various institutions, have been organizing a series of policy institutional webinars in which this book launch is also undertaken. These discussions aim to further a comprehensive understanding of our food systems, their interconnectedness, the need for sustainable and inclusive solutions. By actively involving representatives from diverse sectors, including you who are all here, we amplify the voices of not only the urban poor, but farmers, indigenous peoples, women, students, and the youth in ensuring that the perspective shapes our collective efforts. Since the inception of the working group, we have organized various webinars bringing experts from the different Jesuit universities in the country, Ateneo de Manila, Xavier, Ateneo de Davao, and the wider SDSN Philippine network, many of whom are online in Zoom. These webinars have served as platforms for dialogue, consciousness raising, and systems thinking. And by examining the multifaceted aspects of food-related challenges such as agricultural, health, nutrition, environment, and more, we have to identify the holistic and sustainable solutions to combat hunger and malnutrition, as Doc Beto actually undertakes in his book. I'm glad that the University Press has agreed to organize with us the book launch of Doc Beto under the aegis of the working group. Today's book launch is also a testament to the importance of research, collaboration, and knowledge sharing in addressing pressing global issues. Through the valuable insights provided by Doc Beto, we can reimagine our food systems and also work towards a future where hunger is eradicated and all individuals have access to nourishing and sustainable food. Once again, I extend my congratulations to Doc Beto and also my gratitude to the organizers for organizing this book launch. All of you, your presence here today underscores your commitment to sustainable development and also improving the lives of the marginalized, and also your dedication in making a positive difference. Let us use this occasion as an opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions, especially in food sustainability, foster new connections, and explore avenues for transformative change. Thank you very much, and may this book launch in the book also by Doc Beto inspire us to strive for a more equitable and nourished world. Maraming salamat.
Very much, Randy. And now I think the main part of our event this afternoon is our main speaker, author Heriberto Ruiz Tafoya, better known as Beto. He was born in Mexico City and received his doctoral degree in economics from the Kyoto University. Beto is a guest associate researcher at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Kyoto University and a researcher at the Institute of Social Theory and Dynamics in Hiroshima. Beto, please.
Thank you, everyone. It's really very great to be here after 10 years of seeing the book. Before starting, I would like to say thank you to the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, Professor Emmanuel de Locado, for organizing and hosting this event. Also, Professor Philippine from the Dean of School of Government, and of course, the Ateneo de Manila University Press, Karina, Julian is not here, but all the team in Ateneo, the Manila University Press helped me in the editing and revision. It was really a lot of work. And for me, this book represents 10 years of work. It was really long way. It started almost 10 years ago when the first time I came to the Philippines. Let me explain you briefly this one because it's relevant to see how it started. There were simultaneous events that year, 2013, including my visit. I was an MBA student, and at that time in the business schools were very popular, the promotion of doing business at the bottom of pyramid, they call BOP. In fact, government, the Asian Development Bank, many of the governments in the Global South, the World Bank, anyone were promoting this idea. But as it was said, and the idea of bottom of pyramid was a little bit not good for me because this is the second point. I was born, I lived 25 years in slum, Mexico City. The name is Ciudad Neza, Nezahualcóyotl. You can see the book of Mike Davis, The Planet of Slums. He make a mention analysis of my city. And in the Japanese Wikipedia, when you say Nezahualcóyotl, they say the most violent city in Mexico. Now it's maybe not the most, but it's one of the most. Really, my grandfather and my father was teenager when they arrived to squatted land in the borders of Mexico City. When I grew up was in 1980s, as a teenager, 1990s, a little bit better than the experience of my father or my grandfather, but in general, I am sensitive of the life of slums. And then the idea of bottom profiting from the poor is always a sensitive topic for me. The third event in that year was that the World Health Organization declared Mexico as the epidemic of obesity and diabetes, hypertension the same year, 2013. That was another alert. It was really a big topic in Mexico, including my brother. I saw the effects of these packaged foods on the bodies of my uncles. Imagine how dramatic it was that in less than one generation, Mexico became the #1 children obesity, the #2 in adults. As you know, the genetics of Mexico is like, you remember Pacquiao with Marquez. Mexicans are not big. It was really shocking for all the Mexican society in that year. Women passed, before NAFTA, before free trade agreement, only 12% of women were obese or overweight. In 2013 was 76%. And now it's dramatic, the quantity. I just arrived from Mexico City. I was there 2 weeks ago. And I was very careful to observe how was the health of people, not only my relatives. I couldn't find any adult healthy. It's really dramatic. The quantity of people who die in the COVID-19, Mexico is the #1 of deaths in terms of proportion of population, because the virus received bodies that were already sick. In Mexico, the consequence was so high that the government made the most strict regulations for food in the world. Now we have, maybe in the camera you can see, this product is polvoron. It's called here polvoron in the Philippines, mazapan in Mexico. And we have all the products have some marks, some seals, black seal, excess of calories, excess of sugar, excess of sodium, very big seals, that everyone can know that this is not good. The industry is very angry, but anyway, people still is eating. It's not enough. That's why my research approach is different. To be informed, it's okay. But we knew from tobacco, the tobacco knew that everyone is people still continue. I knew that it's correct to have this information, but it's not enough. My approach is a little bit different. And now people make jokes. Now I am meeting for sales. I meet seals. In the pronunciation, seals. Yeah, it's not enough. It's good to make that policy, to increase the taxes. All that macro policies are good, but we need a complement from the bottom. My approach is we need to put pressure on both policies and also bottom movement and find connections. My approach is from the bottom and complement a lot of efforts of the Food and Nutrition Institute, a lot of awareness, but let's see what I found at the bottom. Finally, when I came to Manila with this information, my professor in the Social Business School, she is an expert of Filipino business. Her name is Mari Kondo, and now is Mari Isuka. And she told me, why do you do a comparative study? You are Mexican. She lived here 11 years. I said, you will find something in the Philippines. She gave me a grant. I think I was the only student who received a grant. In almost 1 month, paid, everything paid to, came here to the Philippines. And what impressed me the most was to see like quantity of sari-sari stores with the hangings of the sachets. Hanging like this, didn't see it in Mexico or not in Japan. Everywhere, not only in the esquinita. In that time, I didn't get into esquinita just from outside, but in Manila Bay, Rizal Park, everywhere. In the back stage, the Makati financial centers in the backstage, a lot of sari-sari stalls. That impressed me the most, and that connect with all the other topics I mentioned simultaneously. And I said, yeah, this is my topic. And I did my master's thesis was about Nestlé business for the poor in Mexico and the Philippines, but without being so critical. In Kyoto University, simultaneously in the economics school, without knowing, my 2 professors that later will become my supervisors, they in Japanese and in English papers about Nestlé from a critical perspective, one from history and one from political economy. And then when I apply, I found the program, the name is Economic Development in East Asia. And they liked it that I was already studying Nestlé. And I told them I want to do it from a critical perspective. And I joined the doctoral program in Kyoto University. And since that time, my professors have been very helpful until today. You know? I was very lucky to be there with them. It was a coincidence as well. Many coincidences happen. You know, when this kind of things, there are too many people that need to help you that is evident in 10 years. How can I arrive to Manila and the slums? I went to the church in Kyoto and Osaka. There are Mexican priests. And those Mexican priests, they make a mass in Japanese, in English, Spanish, and one of them in Portuguese. And I told them, I want to go to the Philippines with the poor. Can you help me introduce me with the people? Yeah. I know the Filipino make fiesta every month. They make bands. They make even a market in the church, in both, but more in Osaka is bigger than in Kyoto. And that's the way I met the Carmelite sisters in Uji. And they have a house in Tatalon. That was my first connection. And the Carmelite sisters helped me to do my research in Tatalon. I knew about Tatalon because I read already papers about the involvement of Tatalon Santo Domingo Church in the 1996 in ESA. And I was really happy to be there. But that also I met a social worker, 𝙃𝙀𝙀𝙀, that she studied in ASEAN Social Institute, a social worker. And she introduced me with ASI, with Dr. Mina Ramirez. And here today are my professor in ASI, Alice and June. Yes, they are today here. I'm happy to see you here because I learned a lot. And the support from ASI was fundamental, including the connection with the Ate Malu in the Some for All Children. She is also graduated from ASI. She is here, and she is in charge of educating and helping Bajau people to go to school. And she and her husband, who is the dedication of the book is to her husband, that he unfortunately died in 2017. They helped me until today. I am living in the house of the Son for All Children with the Bajau. That amazing. I didn't know the existence of Bajau, really. And it's one of the people that I have learned the most in my life. And the other one is when I read the thesis of Marco Garrido was revealed in 2013, and he in his thesis he found where are the informal settlements in Manila. He made his methods of social geographer, and it was very useful for me, and also by Steros. And in the analysis and the history of urban poor in the Philippines, the Smoky Mountains always relevant, no? From Tondo to Payatas. And I sent emails to different institutions and churches in Payatas. And one of them replied to me. Maybe Roy is on Zoom. I don't know, he's in England right now. He has a foundation, it's a Fair Play for All Foundation. They teach football in Payatas. They have a Payatas football club. And he had already the best cafe, the best food you can find in Payatas is there. They have a garden. They are themselves, because they use the body, very aware of the importance of good nutrition, good body. He immediately said, yes, I will help you. And he helped me. He introduced me with Valero family, with the garbage collectors. And that time the dump was still open. The smell was very strong. I think it was the most difficult place to do my research. Not only because I was staying there, the life conditions were very tough. In all the information, it's very tough, really, really tough. When you need to go to shower, when you need to go to the toilet, in the mornings, in the nights, it's tough, really. But they helped me a lot. Also with language, I don't speak Tagalog. I can understand Chabacano, but only some Bajau speak Chabacano. The rest speak many other, Bicolano, Iloilo, Tagalog, Bisaya. It's really a multi-words. Every place is very different. Anyway, I received a lot of help. And then after I finished my thesis, as Karina was saying, in Kyoto, there is the Institute, the Center of Southeast Asian Studies. I get contact with Mario Lopez, and he introduced me. Mario Lopez, until now, he's my host. He introduced me with Caroline Howe. And what Caroline opened the door and the window for more things. And also this book is thanks to her, Julius Bautista, and then Karina was there in 2019. Then it's a lot of help until today, but it was not enough. When I was preparing the manuscript, when came already working in an edition, came the COVID, the pandemic, early in 2020, and then it was a huge event. I had already interaction with people in Payatas, in Tatalon. It was a big event, big event. And what I decided to do research again, to update what happened during pandemic. You will find here a chapter on it, and all the book is talking about that. And we collect new information. And in some way was in the negative of the pandemic, the good for me, and at least for this book, that the book will not have the same impact if the book will release before the pandemic. The book will die very soon. But now, I think this book will live long. Even historians of the future or anthropologists will find useful this book. What happened not only during 2019 in 20th century or early 20th century in the pandemics, they will find this book very useful. How come this generation of humans developed this artifact of industrialized food in their diets and their bodies? And then this book, you will be really not disappointed when you find information about happening during the COVID. The book is really complete in that sense. And in that process, it was very difficult to do research, but with the resources of CCS and the connections with CCS, and I found Michel Ong in the UP Dillman, and one of her best students is here, Mark. He helped me with the network. It was forbidden to do research in the urban settlements, but he used his network. He lives there. And thanks to him, we could collect data and good information that you will find here. Anyway, a lot of help, a lot of situations, but finally, all this long trip until today. Now, let me then show you. The book includes personal life history about me, all the disciplines and social science I have been studying: political economy, sociology, anthropology, social psychology, history, social geography. Any one of the disciplines you will find I had been studying many years. I think I am not 45, but I think at least 30 years I had been studying very hard. Many business management, and also very good. I am so happy to connect the tradition of buen vivir in Latin America, Mexican, with the ginhawa. It's one of the things I feel really happy, because in the doctoral thesis I couldn't include this because these topics are considered ethical of the indigenous people. It's very difficult to introduce this topic in the economics school. The economics professor will say, "What are you saying? What are you writing about?" But now I'm happy I had more freedom in this book. Things that I couldn't put in the doctoral thesis are here, or unfortunately, many things of the doctoral thesis are also. That's the balance, but anyway, I am happy that buen vivir and ginhawa is really a core in this book. For those who haven't read the book, I think still many people, let me tell you, the structure is very simple. The introduction with the importance of the topic, the consultant framework, ethical, because I am more like a right to food. Everyone has, even the poor, rights to eat well, nutritious food, safe food. Everyone has that basic right, human right. And study consumption, but not in the economics of buying. I study consumption more on sociologically and anthropologically. Sociologists use the word eating. Anthropologists study meanings of the food. Nutritionists only, they say the word intake. It's a very horrible word, I think, intake. Economists say buying. But I am using more eating, sharing. I transmit stories, my stories with the Bajau, in Payatas, in Tatalon. You will find interesting the food patterns, also the history from Rizal, the packaged food of Jose Rizal to now. Very rich. Also an exchange is more economic anthropology, not only buying or selling, but also giving. A lot of gifts, making these products as gifts or donations that are very also well studied. And the idea of what it means to be packaged, what you are meaning about this. It's a process, it still is not ending. One of the main things that I wanted to explain is not new. This has been a long process since the time of Jose Rizal until now. But now it's more evident of the consequence that we have been observing, how people is, particularly the most poor, is limiting their lives because now their bodies have started to be very much affected. And how to get out from the bottom, from their own resources. That's basically the structure of the book. What I mean, voice of people, bottom-up approach means the voice of people. It's not only my voice. A lot of their voices are there. They live in Casaglihan. All of these 6 locations are unique. And we can write only an essay or to explain only these 6. I cannot explain all the details today, but Casaglihan, Gugol, or Libis, they suffer a lot of flooding. In Ulysses, almost all disappeared in the typhoon in 2009, but they resisted, and they are still there. In Casaglihan, were relocated. They were from Pasig almost more than 20 years ago, but they still are suffering the same problems that 20 years ago on relocation. They give these houses, very precarious houses, but still they are paying kind of rent. And now Casaglihan is, Montalban is highly developed, but they are still in very lagged. Google is a very compact group, 80 families and around 40, 50 houses. This is from all of them, the most compact politically organized group. Historically, they had a lot of troubles with government, but recently we were last Sunday there, and now they have a good relation with the barangay. But historically, they have a lot of problems, and they were red tagged as a communist. But now, at least for this period of time, they can stay. They were trying to be evicted after Ulysses, and they resisted. They had been there almost 100 years. There are families, poor families of 4 or 5 generations of poor people in Google. Libis is also a very particular place. Next to the Mariquina River is flooding all the time. There also we interviewed 2 urban farmers that unfortunately now they are not working as urban farmers. They need to work again as lavandera, house domestic labor. They couldn't succeed. It's very difficult to be a farmer in the city. But they were very solidarity during the pandemic. They provide food for Libis squatter and the village, we call Libis village, and for Google as well. And the houses are somewhere more split, mixed. It's like a labyrinth. It's a different place. They are not a compact, organized compact like Google, but also they were farmers, immigrants, not relocated. They arrived to the city. In Payatas, you know, the Smoky Mountains, the garbage collectors of those who received me, they rescued bodies in the tragedy in 2001. They were those who rescued bodies. The government changed the land policies. They were allowed. They don't have rights. They don't have the document, the paper, this land is yours. The land still belongs to the government, but at least they have a guarantee that they will not be ejected. Their house, they have titles of their houses. Some of them get job as formally as a palero in some small companies, but the pay is not very good. still rely on scavenging, separating garbage and junk shops. Even if now the dump site is closed. In Dakota, well, in the Bajau, as you know, the Bajau is very particular site. I don't need to explain. You know, they are already marginalized Islam, mostly, but with a strong ethics. I will mention a little bit more later about that. And in Tatalon, also well known, but here I studied two different places. Tatalon is in Quezon City is when more urban informal settlement of squatters exists. Around 20% of population lives there. This street that you see in this map is Araneta Avenue, Carilaya. Above the map is Santo Domingo Church, this is Quezon. Below will be Rodriguez. In Carilaya, in Meralco Square, they call Meralco because it's Meralco line. In the photo is not visible, but the electricity is above. The land belongs to Meralco company. In the Cubo, the land belongs to a family that is in struggle. Some families, Chinese ethnicity, some local. And San Juan River, this is España subdivision. If you continue in San Juan River, crossing Quezon Avenue, crosses the Fisher Mall. It's around there. Carilaya Square is the biggest, but I just walked through it, but my research was mostly in Cubo and Meralco when the Carmelite sisters had more social networks. Yeah, that were the two places split in Tatalon. The locations in average more or less as small spaces, as you know, in average 10 meters. Some can be 6. The smallest place where they live is 6 square meters. The biggest I found was 45. And those who have 3 roofs, 1 family in each level, or 2 families, usually 2 families, sometimes even 3 families in one house. The energy for cooking is gas, 5 liters, but constantly charcoal, wood, and sometimes kerosene is used. Many people work mostly up to 16 hours at work. 16 hours at work. Horrible works. David Graeber's published a book called The Bullshit Jobs, but I think it's not. We need another word. It's worse than that. The jobs that David Graeber described is marvelous, excellent in comparison to the jobs they do. If we really understand why do they exist, if we study what they are doing now, we can understand why too many informal settlements still exist in Manila. All the economic growth still depends on the poverty of these people. Many others have a lot of time. They are not working. They can cook, but the gender issue is, again, someone who is cooking is only 1 person. Many people is not doing anything. Unfortunately, there are many people without doing anything, and now more screens than before. Not only on TV, the TV still exists, and people is watching TV all day. But additionally, even more after the pandemics, screens, computers and smartphones, and even children, more than before. More packaged food, more screens than before. Unfortunately, then if they don't help. They don't clean, they don't cook. It's unfair. Only 1 person to receive all the work in the house. The voice of people, many interesting stories. Let me tell you just some good examples in terms of the transition, economically, sociologically. She's Mirna Germany. She sells from 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 in Manila Bay. She lives, also she sells in Dakota. It is one of the alleys. She's selling now packaged foods. When my finger is signaling, I have photos when it's the packaged food, but she's in that part, she has only sachets, 3-in-1, Energen, Milo, Bear Brand, those. In the pink, this hot water. In this box, white box, is sugar. She has peanut butter because she has some bread, biscuits, cookies, cakes. But before, the interesting part is that before having this card that one of her customers donate her, she was having in a basket food that she cooked, in sandwich or rice with ulam. She was waking up 3 o'clock in the morning, going to the market, sometimes the Victoria, a lot of effort and going to sell. But when San Andres, Pure Gold San Andres was open, she started to buy the sachets and she stopped cooking and she started just selling and mixing, easy to eat. With her are those dozen of people that before was cooking and not anymore cooking. Dozen, only in Dakota, in Malate. In Manila, hundreds. In Metro Manila, thousands. Thousands of people who stopped to cook and now just buying and reselling. Thousands. That's why she is relevant. Another friend, the husband of Ate Razmina, he used to be a money exchanger. When Robinson's was, and that time was Harrison was the oldest small. But when Robinson didn't exist, many tourists around still needed to exchange money. It still exists some exchanger money, but now there are more banks. You can exchange monies in Robinson. You don't need too much someone who make exchange of money. Many Bajau were involved in the exchanging money. After the development of Robinson and banks, his services were not necessary, and he has been unemployed for long. And his wife Razmina put him to try to sell Maggi. The Bajau use the word Maggi or kari in their language to say noodles. Basically, no skill at all, just put it there and sells. They go to the airport, near to the airport with a trader, because the Maggi is a halal, because the Muslim, they eat halal. Halal came from Indonesia, from Malaysia, is what the Bajau likes to eat. But basically, it's no skills at all, just put it there and sell, no effort of cooking. No? A lot of this you can see only selling, but no skills of develop skills of creativity, for example. Another case is in Tatalon, in Cubo, Dioniso Panner. In general, are women in charge of Sari store. Dioniso is one of the exceptions because his wife died very young, around 52 years old from heart attack. He was in all that community of Cuba, a lot of electric and mechanic technicians. He lived in Iraq when he was teenager until 25. He met Saddam Hussein, and most of his hairstyle and his mustache is because Saddam. He met him personally, and he lived in Oman, several places. Go to in that region of the world, that community. But he needed to go back to take care of their children and take care of the store, the main source of money. Then when Nescafe made an offer, usually the companies offer you to put your name, as you can see. But in this case, not only the name was his photo, because they were promoting the twin, the twin pack to compete with Copico, con Great Taste. And he was very happy because he's very funny. He's very, very kind person, always making jokes. And he was really, really excited that his identity was used by the corporation. And then he puts the Dioniso Panner. No? Many stories, usually when you make interviews, are outside of the house because there is not enough space, or sometimes in the alleys, and sometimes inside. A few of them speak English. I always need a lot of help. Some of them live abroad, and abroad they develop more English skills. The interviews are very slow, and a lot of interruptions with children, or someone can just approach, what are you doing? And then takes a lot of time. And many visits. I visit every family 4, 5, sometimes 6 times, and in different years, different months. Let me tell you briefly the story of here Nuriam. Nuriam, because her case made me to expand my conceptual framework after she died, and subsequent deaths because of this food, of these drinks, made me to expand my framework. When I met her in early 2015, she started to sell soft drinks that you can see in the photo. Before that, almost 10 years, she was selling only fruits, manga, calamansi, saging, only fruits. But again, as I told you, San Andres, Pure Gold San Andres opened in the early 2015. There is only 50 meters of the entrance of Dakota. And she said that's a very good idea to buy the big bottles and send the glass in 5 pesos. And in her rationality, it was a lot of profits to sell 5 pesos soft drink because that margin of profits. The bad news is not only that she stopped going to buy fruits and have contact with farmers and in the market, right? As a market as mediator of farmers and consumers. The bad news is like she started to drink the leftovers. I don't know exactly how much milliliters of leftovers. But when I visited in December, it was already March in 2016, she started to have pain in the kidney. And the next visit I did was in June or July. She had already the stone. And the last visit in September, last photo, she was already sick. She asked me for medicine. I went to Mercury Drug with her to buy medicines that absorb all the profits of her business. And not only that, she changed her diet and started to eat. In the morning, she was originally eating pan de sal with some coffee or just water. But now she was eating 3-in-1 and fita, and Otap is another brand that biscuit that she liked. Then her diet completely changed. Her problems in the kidney were not properly attended, and she died in 2017 with terrible pain. And that's why that made me to include the idea of dying in the framework of living, not only living, but also you need to aspire to die well. And she was not the only one of people I knew in the Philippines and Mexico who died from 2017 to 2022 that I did the book. More than 15 people in both countries, relatives, friends, died as a consequence of eating or drinking this food. Then my framework, the idea to make the contrast of living well, buen vivir, or living fullness, and to contrast the living bad. No? Of course, the perfection doesn't exist, and also the worst, but just to make boundaries. And above is the human flourishing, the potentialities that a human has to be flourished as human. And the other one, the counterpart, the idea to be packed, to be restricted, stagnated, right? And then usually are three: eating well, nutrition, delicious, safe, diverse, meaningful food, and really alone because you share with others. And respecting nature, respecting people. I mean, you don't exploit people, you don't exploit nature. And the other one, you are engaged in meaningful activities that make sense to your own life. Many types of arts, disciplines. No? Usually that's what the indigenous people of Buen Vivir means until here. From eating well to the other ones, meaningful. They don't talk about that, but I added the additional because these deaths. Also, we should include the dying without a serious illness and pain and really alone, because in Japan, for example, people is dying alone with serious pain and no one noticed until the smell comes out. Also in Nordic countries, it's a big problem now in Japan. Then I include that also. We deserve to die well. To the end of your life, only that the energy goes. You're sleeping. You don't need to deserve to die with a lot of pain. And on the contrary, when you say SPACs, what I mean is eating nocive commodities, even if they are apparent nutritious, they say it's delicious, they say that it's safe, they say it's diverse, because you go to supermarket, you see a huge wall of products and you say, how diversity, I'm eating a lot of choices, but it's not true. It's the same thing, but just different brands and different colors. And they say meaningful because they give you icons of the good life, joy, happiness, there's a lot of icons around that are apparently meaningful for your life, but it's just fake marketing, greenwashing, COVID washing, no? Exploiting nature, exploiting people, all the contrasts that I say in living well, and died with serious illness and pain, as Nuriam and my Tío Joel and many others that died with serious illness. Yeah, that makes my framework, no, the framework of package and living well, originally based on Buen Vivir, then ginhawa, when ginhawa is also very close to the above, the Buen Vivir, and in the middle, most of us live in the gray parts. No one is perfect, and no one is worse. Huh? And sometimes politically organized, sometimes not. Sometimes are communities of practice that slow food movement, cooking together, and some people, indigenous communities, avoiding urban communities. Sometimes exists a political dispute on that, but sometimes no. Sometimes just people by themselves are aware and are sensitive, and they try to do it. That's why this is a huge gray area that most of people we are there. But it's good to know the boundaries, at least conceptually. And in the book, I just developed two, the alienation of nature, and I use the example of the 𝙭𝙬𝙬, because the 𝙭𝙬𝙬 people suffer the highest impact because the Pinatubo, and they transform their diets, their life intensely, and I made the analogy with urban people and then the life of urban farmers. It's the chapter I like the most of all the books. Unexpected to me, it's one of my favorite chapters, relation of mankind and nature, and social and political ecology, phenomenology. It's I like very much this chapter. And the other one also I like because it was very, a lot of work to do the other one, the mind, how mind is packaged and bodies, a lot of quantity of work, a lot of years of studying these topics, around 10 years for these two, health and marketing. And one of the classes I teach in Kyoto is marketing in Asia, no? But I try to make balance to say what kind of marketing it is. Let me talk about what I mean, the importance of the adjective corporate, because packaged food exists. There are many types of packaged food. In literature, in the books, scholars use this kind of concepts: ultra-processed food, manufactured food. All of these concepts are useful, exist, and are useful. But for my study are not, I make in the book, you will find my comments of all of them that are not the best for my study and for the life of the urban pool settlements. Let me say just the comment of junk food. Why junk is not a good word for us? Because for poor people, the boundary is lower than normal person. Imagine they know the extent of junk because there are junk shops of when people sell the garbage. But many people is eating from the garbage. Literally, they call in Payatas, call in Tondo pak of the wings. But because mostly of the leftovers is the wing, but not only wing, also the legs, and they know they pick up the garbage from Kentucky Fried Chicken, from McDonald's, from Makati, and they go home. They go to the dump site. They separate that bags. Some of them are so hungry that they immediately eat it. But most of them, they bring to their children. They wash at home. They washed a little bit, and they cooked again. And that's the dinner of the day. They call pakpa. Then the boundary, how can you call me that this, if you show me a brand, a beautiful can with beautiful logo, beautiful colors, products that are not bite by rats because the rats cannot bite the can. How do you call me this one junk? How do you call the other one? Then it doesn't work, right? The boundary is lower. But the Bacha, for example, they have an ethical policy, we can say, that not to eat pakpak because they are Muslim. We are poor. We are very poor, but we will not eat. Because they don't eat pork, they are very, very strong. We will not eat pork. But why did they eat so much easily packaged food? Because they had been experiencing hunger, and the experience of hunger, even included in the pandemic, I have never experienced hunger in that level, honestly. But they transmit you with their eyes, their tone of voice, their bodies change. The experience of hunger, of the pain is horrible, that they prefer to go to the garbage and eat like that. Imagine how horrible it is to feel the feeling of hunger, to do that. And that's why it's easy for them to accept. You can tell me that it's not nutritious, it's like this, but look what I am eating, what was eating. No? That's why they can easily accept these products. It's not only because they have money, because most of the they buy this one because they have money. No, it's not about money. Money is important, but not the only money. Then I originally I wanted to use branded food, but brands also exist in cooperatives and small groups, and I wanted more to target the big brands. And then that's why I changed better to corporate, because some people package their own food, many types of packaged food, but for me, it's very important the adjective, because we can still use the technology of packaging, but with our own benefits. States can package food, cooperatives, NGOs, the communities can also package this food and remove corporate and coexist. Corporate food can exist, but also give chance to others to exist. And the categories for that time was food, beverage, seasonings, sauces, and vinegars. Because oils and fat, at least in 2015, 2016, where the manteca were hanging just plastic bags selling in the 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬 store. No? Not cheese, not mayonnaise, not butter. Outside the 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬, outside the lump, of course they were selling, but I mean inside. Now I have been observing these days. Now they have inside mayonnaise, bottles of oil, cheese, more regularly than. Now I can include also a fourth category of oils and fats that will expand more the concept. What is not included, and it's important to study as well. There are studies already about fast food, food and convenience stores. They also branded the Jollibee, they pack and people bring to their house. It's important to study also those foods. Not in this case, I didn't study, but of course they are important. Beer is not included food in Germany, in Ireland, because there are countries that heavily drink beer. Even Friedrich Engels considered beer as food. Many European countries think of beer as food, but in my case, no, we don't include beer as food. Then that's the parameters. Main source of information from consumers, householders, moms, and the 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬 store is very important. I was there since the early morning to early night, taking notes, also interviews, a very, very deep study. And 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬, in average, as Karina said, in average 55%. But the importance of this graph is the categorization. I categorize what is packaged food, what is not packaged food, what is cigarettes and alcohol, that is traditionally the main source of income of the 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬. And some very few can sell rice. For example, Nonoi, store that green in the middle. Why Nonoi, she can sell rice and not the other? It's not easy to sell rice for two reasons in 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬. One is the vehicle, because to be profitable to have rice, you need to go for big sack. But if you go for big sack, who's going to help you to go? And you need to spend a lot of money just for the cost of the vehicle, your profits will disappear. And the second one is the space. Many stores are only 2 meters, 3 meters. Where are you going to put rice? How you are going to protect from ants, from cockroaches, from rats? How? Where? Then that's two are the main reason. And the other one, capital. Of course, you need to invest. The case of Nonoi is the only one of this group that she has her partner. She's a same-sex partner. They don't have children, and they reinvest. She has several business. And at that time, she had Pisonet. Now she has more type of business. The other made the business for their children to go to school. Real obsession, and I understand in the context of here in the Philippines, for sending the school of the children. And all the profits I can have is for them to go to school. But those who have no children, of course, they have that margin and reinvest. That is the case of Nonoi. No? But in generally, most of the 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬 store is to consume the products they sell and gain the profits for send children to school. And then 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙬 is the core of all the system. How to provide. And it's amazing how you will also find that chapter is very good, very informative, how the food arrived into there. And here, more of the deposits of soft drinks, for example, are closed. And then they need to introduce. And they have a system, this is Rasma store, and every night she used to deliver only 1 or 2 bottles. Imagine every day there's a system to give only 1, because inside they have only small fridge and only space for 3 drinks. 2 of RC or Coca-Cola and 1 of flavor, Sprite, Fanta, Mountain Dew, some one of flavor. That's the system. Imagine, so impressive that got into the alleys because the big car cannot get inside, and only give only 1 or 2 pieces. Here, for example, the San Miguel Brewery, he cannot get inside. This is outside Meralco. And he's waiting for Nonoi or another store to pick up what she's going to sell. And he take note and is in some way more organized what is coming next week. He cannot get inside. People get out and pick it up. And many others also study ice cream vendors, Yakult vendors. You will find that chapter very, very, very useful, very informative. The point is that there is a system very well established that even in the most difficult place, that there's something that is flooding constantly, you will find someone to supply the product. It's amazing. The capacity of the logistics in pandemics, outside pandemics, after pandemics is very, very impressive. All the organization of the system. Unfortunately, that is surrounded for a lot of, all the children are surrounded of this food. I can see more and more children are trapped. And this is a generation of Filipinos who already get used to these flavors. We don't know what will happen, but the scenario is really not good. How this generation of children, teenagers, when they are adults, how it's going to be. It's really my concern that you can be the same like Mexico in few years. Then how to impact, and I finish with this, and from the bottom and from here can be also policies from above of the government. First one, the starting point is to understand our bodies again. Not only the bones and the organs materially, but to understand more what is the dynamics, and the ancestors help us, like in the concept of ginhawa, the vital spirit. Nowadays, most of people understand ginhawa as comfort and relief. Also, I explained that one here, the different meanings of ginhawa. Most of the meanings relates to money. Some students might say, pass exams, feel, I pass, or have a problem, I solve the problem. Okay, that's breathing of relief, no? But most of the categorization are comfort and means money. But the original meaning, it was not connected to money, but was that vital spirit that is deposited in the center of the stomach, that the Japanese call hara. When the harakiri, good the hara, no? Good energy, the center of energy. And this when it lives. And if you eat bad or you have an impression, you feel pain here. And even scientists have discovered that this part of the body is like a second brain of the body. More studies are about, they are finding all the network of intelligence that is here. And it's very interesting, no? That when a baby, Julius Bautista wrote a very full paper about this, how when the baby is born, when it's caught with the man, how the vital spirit get inside and again the personification and the ensoulment, no? It's what we explain when we go. We are not explaining any more technically, so that intake of proteins, minerals, these words. No, we try to explain more kind of this to recover the previous concept of ginhawa. In 𝙭, they have even a group of ginhawa studies. The tradition in 𝙭 has been a lot about this phenomenon. This is the starting point. Understand the body, not only the organs or the mechanics of the energy, proteins, or the materiality of the body, but the spirituality or the connections with other entities, Mother Earth, Pachamama, whatever you can call. These traditions help us. Then the next point is put it more in practice, these beliefs, because our beliefs are ethical beliefs. And Heriberto Alegre and Doris Fernandez, Dorin, they wrote a very, very beautiful book, and it's a coincidence, but not a coincidence that Mercado and they wrote published in 1991 the paper of Mercado about the soul of the Philippines, and this paper about Kinilaw, because they, after the EDSA, that means that they were thinking after the EDSA revolution where to go. And they were not thinking in food security, food sovereignty. No, they were thinking deeper. And it's not a coincidence that they published in 1991. And I am more in that direction, and both. And the philosophy of Kinilaw that is explained by Heriberto Alegre and Fernandez, Doreen, is three things. Food as it is, in the simplicity, even if it's ugly, even if it's like food as it is, because in the supermarkets everything is perfect, even more in Japan, even is packaged, standardized, no? Freshness and sour. This is very important because now it seems like everything seems to be sweet. Everything seems to be sweet, and the idea is to transfer this one on politics. What I wrote is to move from this philosophy with a more political philosophy in practice, based on what we learned from in Mexico, from indigenous communities, that the understanding of milpa and maize and tortilla and food, how that was translated to politics. And in Mexico and in other countries in Latin America also developed their political philosophy that is not coming from France, is not coming from Germany, is not coming from United States. It's really grounded. That's why these people have amazing movements, not only theoretically, but practically. And they started by using the food. And my finding in the Philippines that the core of the Philippines is Kinilaw. It has been more than 1,000 years. Is the vinegar, is to understand the sourness. And if you can understand politics in this way, maybe people will think differently to see events always happy and event politicians making party, fiesta. Everything seems to be sweet. But in the Philippines, everything is sour. You have the malls that don't allow you to see what is outside. 50, 100, I don't know how many malls exist. For a moment of the day, you will forget that outside there are squatters in formal system just to hide. Or if you are in the train, you might just see the screen and smartphone. You cannot be so alienated. Life is sour, particularly here. And we can learn a lot from the philosophy of Kinilaw. It's very, very interesting. And Ige Ramos just published a book, Dila at Bandila, and he also talked about this. But he said that there is another one. He says suman as the dish of the Philippines, but he said that the suman for the revolution and solidarity. But I don't want only food for solidarity and revolution. I mean, it's after that. That's why Mercado and Allegra Fernandez was saying after that. After the movement, what can we do? It's not only during, but after. And I think Kinilaw gives us more chances to explore and the vinegar, the process of doing it. Then we have understanding of the body, we understand the philosophy, then where to do it. And the cooking space is very important. This is our photos from Tatay Jaime in Casegliahan. It's very impressive to find the dignity of someone who lives in a poor conditions to be clean. And his mentality to teach others, he's recognized for everyone as the best cook. He cooked for others, sometimes pay, he liked to teach. And with that level of dignity and order, I think that's very important. And he also worked as in a golf cruise as a paddy. He was advisors of rich people to win tournaments. He has a very extraordinary mentality. Many Tatay Jaime exist, many. In the urban poor communities, many, but he's one of the main examples. Also, Tita Amparo and many of the Carinderia. The Carinderia is an important institution for the Philippines, more than the 𝙈𝙤𝙘𝙬 store, the counterpart. But recently, Carinderia is also trapped by products for ingredients are industrialized, but they know how to do without industrial seasonings. They know, but the problem of time or cost, they are using it. If there are policies who help Carinderias and certify that they are not using industrial products, it will be really good policy. And not to help so much the 𝙈𝙤𝙘𝙬 store, but to help more the Carinderias. They have a tremendous asset of knowledge. In general, people knows more that they know, that they believe they know, and they know more that they can do. Because sometimes the ingredients, the time they don't have, but many people knows a lot of dishes. The knowledge is really, really not a problem. Let's make use of it before they die, because many people are dying. This Olola are dying. We need to learn from them before they die. You cannot understand everything from YouTube and see the recipe. You need to do it. The only way to do it is to cook on situ and tell stories, the smells, to use the other senses, and recover knowledge. Recover the practice of cooking, and recover the links to local agriculture, like in the case on Libis when Google. Unfortunately, now Ate Marisa and Ate Face having again bad time, but they are try to support the urban agriculture. Also links outside Manila, make again the links that always necessary. But without losing the other previous 4 points. And because the technology of packaging is necessary, this is the last point. The technology is necessary. We need to pack because there are more calamities, typhoons, floodings, fires, earthquakes, pandemics is coming. We need to have a storage. We don't need to wait 2 weeks that the church of a government or someone will give us a charity and will help us give. We need to be prepared for that. And we can learn what the Zapatistas are doing. They have their own packaged food to protect for the moments that they need, not to use every day. Also, the Zapatista is a Mayan community. Those who doesn't know about the Zapatista, they fight against hacendados, against hacienda, and recover the land. Landlords recover the land of the hacienda 30 years ago, and they make autonomous territories. They don't pay taxes. They don't receive any help from the government. They have their own schools, but they want to be Mexicans. They don't want to be independent. Simply, they don't want to rely too much on the government, and basically not rely. And they are really influential. And they are Mayan, Tojolabal, and Tetzal. They don't speak Spanish. When they speak Spanish, is not good Spanish. But they have a lot of reputation. Now we're suffering attacks from paramilitaries, but they have been influencing another. You can find in Mexico at least 15, 16 groups in all the country, because we have 68 different indigenous communities groups. And in South America, Andean people, in Ecuador, Bolivia, those people put it even at level of constitution. They're pushing up, bottom up, until the level of constitution. In Peru, in Chile, we can learn a lot from these people. Also in urban, in La Habana, in Caracas, I follow a lot. What is they are doing? I have been there in most of these places. In Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires, in Lima, and La Paz, Mexico City are booming. In the tragedies, in the problems, always move. Also here in the Philippines, after the pandemics, there are more. It's a good news that they are. And the state also can help. In Mexico, we have a state that provides food from there's packages. The brand is the name of the government. It used to be Conasupo, the one I consume. Now it doesn't exist, only Liconza. And the new government wants to recover the idea of Conasupo with different brands. It's a package by government, buy for local farmers, and distributing a very low price for urban poor. Yeah, thank you. Then there's the compact, is ginhawa, kinilao, the cooking and the knowledge, and the links with other movements, and the recovering the technology. These 5 points are the basic essential of unpacking. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I hope it was not too much.
Thank you very much, Beto, for your very really enlightening, inspiring talk to describe your book. It's so exhaustive and really gives us a lot of food for thought. But at this point, we would like to have our 2 reactors. We will be giving them about 5 to 7 minutes each. I'd like to first call on Ines Fernandez. She's the head of Arugaan, which is a breastfeeding and nutrition NGO working especially among poor, marginalized women. And she's an advocate as well of nutritious, healthy, and indigenous food.
Mabuhay, Dr. Tafoya. Thank you so much for the very comprehensive study interrelating the economy, sociological aspect, and relating it to case stories of the respondents that gives life and the reality and honesty of how their lives were and where they lost dignity with the inroads of corporate packaged food, and how these top corporations like Nestle, Coca-Cola would use marketing ploys to seduce the poorest, the slum dwellers of Metro Manila, which are 4 million. And without the consumers, will the corporate business thrive? So, but they're not contented with the profits that they are generating. They started with supermarkets, groceries, and now they're into the community stores. and transgressing the private spaces for microfinance, for micro business in their hands. And now they came with, as your book says, with a condition of 60% of Nestle products to improve a little of the, not to improve, but to supply the sari-sari stores. And what is so remarkable with your intensive research study that goes over years until before the pandemic and during the pandemic, you showed how marketing tools of donations and gifts in disguise of charity in the face of public relations. And now they would want to save their business expense by going to the community to offer a convenient corporate packaged food that in your chapter would show the risk of non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and when the case story of your respondents would say, how would you describe your everyday food? They start with Nescafe. But the migrants in the slum dwellers would recall that it is better in their childhood times, rice, coffee. So you see, the indigenous food is being eroded by modernity, by technology, but these are farce because it does fill the stomach, but it does not nourish mind, body, and spirit. It has a short lifespan. And then as you show in your chapter of illnesses, the addiction of food. Who is responsible for this? And we have to think this is an issue of human rights to food security, and how our indigenous food that heals and nourishes are being diminished in the name of profit, in the name of money. As you say, 51% of the sales come from their income. Their wage, 51% goes to the corporations. But that only entails inside the household expense. But there are enormous knowledge, indigenous knowledge that come from regional cuisine that talks about good food. And yet Nestle would call in their mantra slogan, good life, good food. It does not talk about ginhawa, the vitals energy. It does not talk about the buen, vivir of life, the totality of good food. So this book is really a dynamite of knowledge. And he wrote it in 445 pages. He wrote the 300 that took me 2 days to digest. But I was so excited because it relates to what we are faced now here in the Philippines. There is the CSR bill, Corporate Social Responsibility Bill, authored by the former son of the President, Paulo Duterte, passed unanimously, not really unanimous, majority of the congressman. And now it sits now with Senator Revilla, the actor, for the Senate to pass. But when you read the 2 pages, it's glamorized. Wow, isn't it good? They're doing corporate social responsibility. And it says, all businesses, multinational and local businesses that exceed 100% of their profit should go to the local. And Revilla would make more amendments to go directly to the local government. They will make our local officials a sales rep. They're so greedy that they are generating a lot of sales. And your book showed the data of the top corporations of how during the pandemic, they used so many disguises of like Nestle, 500 million bayanihan donations. But that fills the stomach and it's nearly expired. And it is not really, it's all micronutrient artificial nutrition. So let's think about it. And the CSR bill says that for every contribution under the name of CSR, corporate social responsibility to the community, it will be tax deductible. Are they not contented with their foundations, which is also tax deductible? And that is not the only one. That all donations of their products, donations of their product should not be restricted at any time, anywhere, anytime, in any volume. And that is a starter. We call that with the formula milk as starter. It is a gift, as you said in your book. It is a gift, but there is ROI, return of investment. It is included in their expenses. It's not really gift. It's for public relations to recall the logo that they're in good, in kind gift giving, as that is a value of the Filipinos and even the Mexicans, receiving gifts and giving gifts. And so they are indebted to them. So the CSR says that the restriction on donation should now be removed. And that affects our milk code law that we nanays, we mothers have given birth to protect the future of our generation, the mothers and the children, the nurturers of our generation. Your book showed that in the breakfast, Milo, Nido, Bear Brand is part of the food for children. Is that food? Who says milk is necessary? It is not. Because if you talk about calcium, protein, we have a lot of indigenous food, which are micronutrient rich. So think about the unpackaging. It should be community-led. So please review the CSR bill and let's do an advocacy work for food security, not corporate package life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. Our second reactor is Justin Badion, who's a faculty member at the theology department here in the Loyola schools, and his PhD dissertation was on food. So, Justin.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I'm heartened to have been able to have a chance to listen to Dr. Heriberto Tafoya here in the launch of his book, Packaged Food, Packaged Life, Corporate Food in Metro Manila Slums. Both the book and his presentation reveal much about the reality of corporate packaged food among the urban poor families of Metro Manila. Especially helpful was the intentional attempt at providing this grassroots perspective that seeks to understand corporate packaged food from the viewpoint of those consuming it in slum households. The book is a book on food, but a particular kind of food, slum food, corporate packaged food, and how it is sold and consumed by thousands of urban poor families in Metro Manila. The book's aim is to clarify the social implications of this phenomenon. The prevalence of corporate packaged food among the urban poor in Metro Manila can trace its origins to the emergence of the corporate food regime. Food regime analysis utilizes history and political economy to frame how the reorganization of power into the hands of corporations has led to the way of eating that people have come to be familiar with. In effect, the question we ask when we do this kind of political economy analysis: who controls what we eat? This applies to all of us consumers, but the range of freedoms enjoyed in any given food system vary depending on class and social stature. For those in the middle class, we still firmly play into the hands of the corporations, but we still have certain access to a bit more freedom with comparatively to the generally constrained food choices available to those of low-income segment of our population. In the case of the low-income population, corporations redefine their business in order to accommodate the needs of these families, as was mentioned in the book of Doc Beto. And these particular foods were durable and available and have been used as food aid in times of natural calamities, as donations, and as a means of subsistence for these families. Doc Beto's work shares stories relating to these householders, mostly women living in the urban poor neighborhoods of Tatalon, Payatas, Malate, Rodriguez Montalban, and San Mateo. What I truly admire about his work is its nuance and critical eye. Doc Beto had emphasized that his work is not against the consumption of packaged foods, but rather that corporate packaged food should not be the only option for society, and that packaged food in any form, corporate or otherwise, should be only a minor part of the total food landscape. Ideally, foods produced with a natural process should predominate over industrialized food, foods grounded on a capitalist structure that seeks to exploit both labor and nature. I echo these sentiments as I personally believe that our food systems will continue to be constrained for as long as so much of it is controlled by the corporate food regime. So if it's not the way to go, what does a healthy food system look like? Is there a place for corporate packaged food there? Maybe, but surely a healthy food system won't be one where capital is the means and ends of all things. I would like to think that a food system that focuses on mutual flourishing might be ideal, and that to seek for a food system like that would be to seek for well-being. Back in 2018, the well-known food writer Feliz Prudente Santa Maria wrote in Budhi Journal regarding the vocabulary of Philippine food and well-being. And there she shares how Tagalog elders have suggested, ang kaginhawahan ay nasa kasiyahan at wala sa kasaganahan. One translation of the proverb is as follows: well-being is in happiness, not prosperity. Happiness ranges from the sonorous elation to silent contentment, and ultimately, a Filipino understanding of well-being requires an appreciation of both. Ma'am Feliz continued, in meals simple and elaborate, Filipinos find a means to negotiate the complexities of reality. What is eaten, when, and how require considerations that impact not only on physical health, but on intrapersonal and interpersonal human bliss. Vocabularies reveal that food is important to the Filipino sense of doing good for others. In social good, in its social contract, beckons a path towards happiness and fullness of well-being. I find that this perspective is very much resonant in what has been presented in the work of Doc Beto. From his book, he notes, there's no question about the benefits of technological advances in food packaging. Technology is necessary in contexts of unhealthiness and frequent flooding or other calamities. However, it is politically necessary to challenge the reliance on corporations to be the exclusive developers and users of technology for the poor. As highlighted today by Doc Beto, the technology of packaging is needed, but corporate dependency is not. Which brings us to the point of what is truly living a full life, maginhawang buhay, which he indicated in his book, life in fullness that does not depend on brands and electrical gadgets, a life that does not link brands with higher social status, a life that aspires to have a healthy and integrated body, mind, spirit, a life that aspires to live long and die peacefully without illness or severe pain. This is a comprehensive and worthy approach to politics in urban poor neighborhoods. As an advocate of food justice discourse and the food system's perspective, I am grateful for the work that Doc Beto Tafoya has done, and am gladdened to have a copy of his book, which will surely prove useful in my scholarship, both as a liberation theologian and as a food studies scholar. This requires us to think about food politics on the level of the grassroots, and a justice framework that focuses less on aid and more on empowerment, on capacity building, and of community that envisions the possibilities of helping themselves and helping others towards a truly dignified kind of living. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. I'm sure that members in the audience would like to ask questions, we have about 10 minutes to do so. Would anybody want to start? And Dr. Beto is here to answer the questions. Or if you have any particular comments, yes, please. Maybe you could just introduce your name and then just here.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Pia Renad and I'm from Rappler. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think the accountability of the corporations is. And because they could very well say, we're not the ones forcing people to buy our products. People are the ones voluntarily paying for our products. We're just supplying the demand that is already there. So how could you talk a little bit more about your thoughts on their accountability and how consumers can hold them accountable, or how government, if you think that's the right way to go, can hold them accountable?
Yeah, this is a question that is not only happening here, it's happening in all the world. And some governments have put some restrictions. For example, there are regulations already, for example, in Mexico, advertises for children. They cannot advertise for children anymore, only in very late night. There are some of the restrictions. Also in schools. Schools are very important. I think for this process and this question, I think the key actor are the schools. Something I didn't say, that, but I will repeat, my study is in the house and in the store, but most of the consumption happens outside and in the trajectory of work and school. All these dynamics is mostly outside. But the school is very, very fundamental, and they can be also a sort of regulation inside and surrounding the schools. That will be very important. Already happening in several countries. Also the taxes and the involvement of trying to involve the voice of people. I think the most important is of course government helps, but government change constantly, but people doesn't change. Just to listen voice of people, that will be enough to try to understand what they are consuming, what they are not. And I give you some of this discussion in the book, but it's not enough. Better to ask them, listen what they think. This is another important point. Mm-hmm.
Any more? Yes, if you have a question, then we'll go online.
Hello, did you want me to speak now?
Okay, yes,
Yes.
please go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay. Thank you so much. I'm Patty Rundle from the UK, and I have worked with Inez for so many years, 40 years, on trying to, campaign and bring in laws to stop the big corporations who are behind this. I mean, I'm so interested to read your book, though, because your book has got clearly looking at this from a very, very important aspect of the people. And from the campaigning point of view, we have been working on codex, the trading standards, and the World Health Assembly and legislation to try and pin the companies down. It's a long, long fight. And we are now very worried to hear what Inez is saying about the Filipino law being challenged with CSR, corporate social responsibility, nonsensical move to actually, try and destroy such an important law. So I'm really thrilled to join this launch today, and I wish you all the best. But I just say this is a very, very big issue of trying to change the food system from a fundamental level, and we do have to approach it from so many angles. People have not made that connection with the ultra-processed. It doesn't, not just the ultra-processed, but the corporate system of replacing real food. And Inez taught me so long ago about looking at, the sour fruits that are so important. Why are we so weaned on to the sweet taste and the easy taste, the ultra palatability of these products, and not able to actually eat real food. So I think it's wonderful that you're doing this book. I will certainly try and buy it, but do make it available audio and whatever, because it's very important that people understand that. I've put a link to two new books, and the Chris Van Tulleken book is top seller for people are really starting to think, oh my goodness, it's not just salt and sugar, it's actually how these things are processed and why they're taking over from real food. I think we need a real understanding by the population. Okay, and I think people will automatically stop buying it once we can stop them promoting and putting these foods with fancy packaging and everything. Thank you so much. Anyway, thank you so much for this launch. I can't hear, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I bought your book in the National Book Fair held in Manila, and as I just looked at the title and knew that it would be very useful for our work in Imagine Law. So I'm Anna, I'm from Imagine Law. I'm with my two colleagues, Attorney Maan and Attorney Mikel. We're actually working on several projects on healthy diet promotion, and one of them is a project to address the harmful impact of marketing of what we call unhealthy food and beverages to children. And the big part of that is, looking at packaged food and the advertising of packaged food, really. So my question is in page 269 of your book, and the pages before that, you discussed briefly, your experiences. You showed some citizens in the slums the ads for the packaged food, and you discussed their experiences and their reactions. So you said that it's just a part of the process. It's one of the points to consider. Corporate products that people consume in the daily life surrounded by advertisements are some points to consider in packaging the life of people. I wonder if you could expound more on that. On what role do you see, what role does marketing or advertising play in the everyday lives of these people who eat packaged food on a daily basis, or who sell packaged food on a daily basis? What impact does the advertising really have on them based on your observations?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very important question. Let me help you to move in your imagination on time, or the time of your grandparents or your parents. 1970s, 1980s were almost no advertisings, you can see. And there are studies, some sari studies, on when the landscape of the city has changed a lot. Internationally, the word of no logo or no 𝚻𝙗 in 2001 was evident, like start to be involved of icons, how our minds connect with icons, symbols, and shape our minds. And just try to imagine the same landscape without these symbols, and everything completely changed, because we have we are more visual persons. Almost 80% of learning of the world is from the eyes, and the second from the ears, and then from touching. Some people develop, from artists, for example, they develop more the listening. But in general, we are very visual people, and these advertisements are super well planned to be to penetrate on you in the right side, and repeat and repeat and repeat. And they have but it's not the advertising. The problem is that the advertising find echo in the store. You go to the store, the product is there. You go to the supermarket, the product is there. You go with the fiesta product is there. You have your relatives, it's everywhere. There is, and then they have a very powerful tool. But the starting point is with how we learn. And for example, that's why when we go to communities, with indigenous communities, for example, when I went to the Zapatista communities in Chiapas, they don't have advertising, no? Or in Bolivia, the McDonald's needed to get out because people didn't buy it. They were surrounded by flowers, murals, information, and children understand life in a different way, particularly children. Children, according to the theory of Piaget, develop their subconsciousness from 0 to 7 years old. That years are very important, and many of the marketing and advertising is precisely to attack that age. And that's why many countries need to regulate from 0 to 7. I can say from 0 to 12. That group of people should be our main protection. And yeah, there is I can talk later to give you reference advertising for children. There are plenty of studies that prove this one. Very important, very important question. Thank you. Okay. How this can be community change eating habits? Yeah, thank you. Yes, I said. Yeah, thank you. For your question. It's very cool. Very good question. The idea of the neighborhood packaged food is health, particularly involving people in the process of production. As you see, the book is only a study about consumption and exchange, gifts or buying. But in the core of everything is who is producing this food. Where is the workers? Where is the peasants? Where is invisible? Where is the cows? And in the way you involve the community to pack, the children know, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? When we involve in the production process, we unveil reality. Be involved in the production help us. In some parts, particularly in Japan, for example, children are more involved with agriculture than in urban Mexico and urban Philippines. I think we need to recover the idea of bringing children to the contact with production, including packaging. The children can also pack food and they see what they touch in their hands, what is put it inside. We can also pack good quality food. The technology can help to pack also good quality. And then the neighborhood packaged food helps in the awareness and recognition of the process of production. And then, of course, in the process of giving. Not by sales, sometimes for donations. Not commodification, sometimes just by sharing and by care others. That's the role of neighborhood packaged food. Yeah, there are many cases about that. We can talk more about it also as well. Thank you for that important question.
Thank you very much, Doc Beto, for really such, as I said, thought-provoking, no, for all of us. I think we've learned so much this afternoon. Things that I think we in the, for example, in the working group, as many of us probably who are here interested in food security, think that we know a lot about what's happening in the Philippines in terms of food insecurity. But what your book has really done has provided us a really comprehensive picture and a really multidisciplinary approach to how we should look at the food problem, the food issues here in the Philippines right now, and looking at the very big role that corporate packaged food is now playing, in terms of the health, nutrition, and wellness of our Filipino population, especially the poor who don't have much choice and are really being preyed upon by this CPF, no? So at this point, because we just have a very limited time left, I would like to now invite a group photo to be taken of our online participants on Zoom. And then we will also have a group photo here of the participants in. How do we go about this?
For our online participants, please turn on your camera. And for our on-site participants, please let us move towards the middle.
Ready? Right? You're good? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Eman. We'd like now to take the opportunity to invite you all, those of you who are here, as well as those who are in the Zoom, to the future events of the working group on SDG2, the Zero Hunger Project. This event, yes, has been jointly organized, as was mentioned, by the Ateneo University Press and the different organizers of the working group on SDG2. And the next webinar that we will have will be in September, which will focus on nutrition, health, wash, and food safety. The next webinar will be on land, water, resources, the utilization and the challenges. And in November, it will be the last webinar for 2023. We'll focus on food waste and the environment, and the overall theme being looking at the policy and governance of sustainable food systems in all these aspects on topics that have been mentioned. So please do look out for these webinars that will be coming up in the coming months. We would also like to request everybody online to evaluate the event by accomplishing the online form using the QR code, scanning the QR code. We request that you take a bit of time to help us assess how this book launch has been and find ways by which we can continue to improve on our webinars. And lastly, I would like to give acknowledgements. This event has been jointly organized, as I said, by the Ateneo University Press, the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, or AIS, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Philippines, SDSN PH, and the SDSN PH SDG2 Zero Hunger Project, composed of the Ateneo de Manila University, Ateneo de Davao University, and Xavier University, Cagayan de Oro. We wish to also thank the interns of the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability and IT support team under the VP Digital Information Technology for all the help that they have given to make this book launch a success. And of course, we'd like to thank very much Doc Beto for all the inputs and valuable contributions. Thank you so much. Congratulations again, Doc Beto. Thank you, everybody. And we are all invited to partake of snacks outside. Thank you. Not packaged food, wow.
Okay. Great.